We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland out today. It is a pleasure, as always, to welcome back to the program. Are you ready for some Digby? Yes, well done, Matt. Heather Parton, otherwise known as Digby, writer at salon.com, proprietor of the Uber blog Hullabaloo. Heather, welcome. I feel like we start every one of our conversations or end them almost identically over the past, a decent amount over the past 6, 7, 10 years. I don't know. But before we get on air, when we're in the sort of the green room, we're going over like the topics we were going to talk about. And I've got a list now of 15 top stories.
And that's just the highlights. So, I mean, there's so much more than that.
I honestly don't know where to start this week because there's been so much happening. But let's work backwards a little bit. Let's talk about this Venezuela thing, because, or I should say, presumably Venezuelan. I mean, like, we don't know much about the 11 people
Venezuelans, yes,
that we blew up in a boat in the Caribbean. People who were going to, I think it was Trinidad, was it? No real relationship to the United States whatsoever, as far as we know, and we decided to blow them up. I can't help but think, I mean, tell us, what your thoughts on this, but I can't help but think that, like, this was, Trump thought this was going to be a much bigger story. And it happened the day that you had Epstein survivors on Capitol Hill, as they're pushing dramatically to keep the Republicans, any two Republicans from signing on to this discharge petition. But tell us on both sides of that story.
Okay, well, the Venezuela thing, I think people should start to pay attention to it, start reading up on it when it comes out. It's just been sort of in the periphery for the last month or so that there's something going on down there. They deployed this rather large deployment of naval ships and all kinds of support to cruise just outside the Venezuelan waters. And this has been going on for the last few weeks. And there's already a bounty on the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro's head, for $50 million. The United States has put up a bounty on him, captured and potentially killed. And it's pretty clear there's something happening down there. Let's just put it that way. Well, this week it escalated, and they decided to blow up this boat. I think you're right. I think a lot of it was that Trump wanted to create a big story here. And he is the one, according to Marco Rubio, who gave the order. He personally, they told him, they gave him the option of saying, well, we can just interdict this boat and, do what is lawful and what is normally done in that situation. Usually it's the Coast Guard, it's not the U.S. Navy, but assuming that they would use the U.S. Navy to this, they would board the ship, check it out. If there's drugs on board, they arrest the people, they take them back and, try them like normal, like what you do with drug runners of any kind. Or they could blow the ship out of the water. Those were the two choices, and Trump decided to blow the ship out of the water. He was very proud and excited about that. He tweeted about it. This was really great. They even sent out a video of it so we could watch these people being murdered on the high seas. What this is really about, I think, and we'll see, I could be wrong here. Part of it is an escalation of this idea that these alleged gang members, we have no idea who these people really were. They could have been completely innocent people. We have no idea. And they're not offering any evidence of anything. But what I think this is happening is that I think that Trump is looking to provoke the Venezuelans into doing something against this big deployment that's sitting right outside their waters. And in fact, they did a flyover yesterday, the Venezuelan Air Force did, to give them the excuse to go in. I think this is regime change. I think that's what they're talking about. I think that's what they plan to do.
People forget that because the Democrats sort of participated in this, at least some of the Democratic leadership. But Trump, I think, had Guaido, Juan Guaido, who was the not the not the president elected by Venezuela, but the president. He sort of claimed the presidency in Venezuela, and had him. If I remember correctly, I think he was at a State of the Union address, like literally physically showed up there, and so. This has been an ongoing bugaboo for Donald Trump, and of course, Marco Rubio also virulently
hardcore
against any type of social movement that would come to power in Venezuela.
That's right. And the thing is, I mean, Maduro's not a great guy. I'm not going to defend him. He's done a lot of things, authoritarian things. He's a, kind of a lefty authoritarian in many ways. But he was democratically elected, although they say that he wasn't, and that, of course, he rigged the election. I mean, don't they all? And this has been a bugaboo, and there's one reason for it. Venezuela has a lot of oil. It is an oil country. It is the biggest supply of oil in South America. And Donald Trump has always believed, people will remember this, that he always thought that, Iraq was a mistake, but if we went in, we should have at least kept the oil. He said it over and over and over again. So that you can see what the motives are for this. And it's also, and it's not just that. I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal, certainly on the part of Marco Rubio, who apparently is driving the bus on this one. Everything I read says that he's the guy who pushed for this deployment down there, that he's the guy who's been out there. He gave a press conference after this event where they blew up the boat in Mexico City. That was just bone chilling. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was like, we're going to take them out, and that's just it. They want nothing else will show them what's going to happen. I mean, he sounded like Sebastian Gorka. It was creepy, and he was very, very hostile and violent. And I think this is his plan. This is what he wants to depose Nicolas Maduro. So, but there's also this new excuse. There's this whole legal framework they're trying to build. It's not really. I shouldn't call it a legal framework. They're basically saying the president has the authority to do whatever he wants. And we know that. He says that in every case. This is his new thing. There is no rule of law when it comes to the president. He has an article. I mean, Article
Supreme
1,
Court may not disagree with him on that.
It doesn't seem like they are, at least not adamantly opposed as yet. So it does look like this may be something they will grant him the right to do. Now, look, you and I have been through a lot over the last 20 years. We watched what happened in Iraq. They lied us into that war. But they did go to Congress, and they got that vote to do it. As horrifying as that whole thing was and the lies that went into it, the Gulf of Tonkin incident in Vietnam, But let me just point out, look at the results of those two things. Those were the two longest wars in American history. They were an absolute nightmare. They totally destroyed America's, place as a country with principles, at least, or that adhered to international principles. But in both those cases, the Johnson administration and the Bush administration, there was at least a sort of a fig leaf, one of those, hypocrisy is the tribute vice pays to virtue kind of thing, where at least we'll try and create the illusion that there's a legal authority for doing what we're doing. And we'll do some kind of kabuki dance to pretend like we're doing that. Trump isn't even doing that. He's just saying, I have the authority. They asked Rubio and they asked Hegseth whether or not by what authority they murdered a bunch of people in the middle of the ocean, blew them up. And they just said the president has the authority. That's it. That's his authority. And they're doing this based on the Article 2 thing, which is going to come to the Supreme Court. There's going to be there's already a ton of litigation on that. But apparently the idea that Congress has anything to say about this is just out the window. They're not even bothering. They don't care. And neither does the Congress, by the way. The Congress is fine with it, too, as far as I can tell. No, but I'm not hearing anything. I mean, this one with the Venezuelan vote, I didn't hear any Democrats talking about this.
No.
Maybe I missed it, but I haven't heard anything. And there must have been somebody. I mean, if Rand Paul is the only one I've heard that came out and said, hey, where's the authority to do this? You have to come to Congress before you start blowing people up. But I think that is really, it shocked the legal, the people who study the law of war were stunned by this action, because it is clearly it's murder is what they did with impunity. And by the way, just one little thing, Rodrigo Duterte, who ran a drug war in the Philippines, where he rounded up drug users and drug, runners in his country and killed them, was arrested last March and is now under indictment in The Hague for crimes against humanity for what he did. That is the only legal authorization that the Trump administration is claiming on this, that these are they're drug lords, and they have the right to take them out to protect the American people in Venezuelan waters, 1,000 miles from America. But apparently they're claiming, yeah. Well, Trump's claim they were coming to America in a speedboat 1,000 miles away. Yeah, I mean, but whatever. But this is the only hint of legal authority that the Trump administration is claiming, is that this is they have attacked us under the Alien Enemies Act and some other, just basically Article 2, giving the commander-in-chief the ability to do whatever he wants, they say. But it's basically based on this drug war that Trump is claiming. And I'm just pointing out, Duterte's under indictment right now in The Hague. They arrested him, Interpol arrested Duterte last March on this very thing, that he had committed crimes against humanity. So just saying, I think that may be what we've done. And we'll see where that ends up. Everybody just start reading. When you see Venezuela pop up in the news, take a minute to just sort of catch up, because I think this story is going to potentially get very, very ugly.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.